If you look at a map of Seoul, you'll find 5 grand royal palaces sitting right in the heart of the city. Millions of tourists flock to the biggest one, Gyeongbokgung Palace, every single year. But out of all 5 palaces, only one was inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's not the biggest one. It's this one, Changdeokgung Palace. UNESCO recognized it as a masterpiece of Far Eastern Palace architecture for its outstanding universal value in harmonizing with nature. But today, I'm not just showing you the pretty scenery. As a licensed guide, I'm going to take you past the gates to show you why this was actually the king's favorite palace, and reveal the ironic, tragic, and often bloody history hidden behind this beautiful nature. Before we start, just some quick practical information. Number 1. Changdeokgung Palace is closed every Monday. Standard hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. with the last admission at 5 p.m. However, in winter, November to January, it closes 30 minutes early at 5:30 p.m., so you must enter by 4:30 p.m. Number 2. There are 2 types of tickets for this palace, one for general admission and one for the Secret Garden. If you wish to enter both, you need 2 separate tickets. I highly recommend visiting the Secret Garden too, as it is the heart of the Changdeokgung Palace. General admission is 3,000 won. However, if you are under 19 or over 64, you enter for free. Just make sure to show your physical passport at the ticket booth to prove your age. The Secret Garden costs 5,000 won, though it is half price for ages 7 to 18. Again, a passport is required. Number 3. You can rent a hanbok from a nearby store to get free general admission. I strongly recommend wearing one, not just for the free ticket, but because it makes for some amazing photos. Please note that for the Secret Garden, you still need to pay the full price even if you're wearing a hanbok. Number 4. For the Secret Garden, you can either pre-book online or stand in line at the ticket booth next to the gate. Availability is limited for each time slot, so I recommend pre-booking your ticket. Some of you may wonder, why did they build a second palace when there's the Grand Gyeongbokgung right on the next block already? To understand this place, we have to go back to the very beginning. Last time, we explored Gyeongbokgung Palace, the main palace built in 1395 by King Taejong, the founder of the Joseon Dynasty. He named the main gate Donhwamun, meaning the king's light shines upon the world. A beautiful blessing from the founding king, right? Well, that blessing didn't even last for 10 years. King Taejong had many sons, but when he chose his 10-year-old youngest son from his second wife as the crown prince, his 5th son, Ibangwan, was furious. Ibangwan had done the dirty work to help his father build the country, yet he was cast aside. So in 1398, he launched a violent coup. He killed all his half-brothers, including the crown prince, eventually seizing power to become a king, King Taejong. Because of this strife of princes, blood was literally spilled on the grounds of Gyeongbokgung Palace. When Taejong finally took the throne, he hated staying there. He felt the ghosts of his dead brothers were hunting him in those halls. So in 1405, only 10 years after Gyeongbokgung was built, he ordered a new palace to be built just a couple blocks away to the east. That is how Changdeokgung was born, not out of celebration, but out of fear and guilt. Because it was built as a secondary palace, the architects didn't feel the pressure to follow the strict, rigid rules of Chinese Confucian design that you see at Gyeongbokgung. Gyeongbokgung is symmetric with straight, imposing lines, but Changdeokgung, on the other hand, it flows like water. Instead of flattening the ground to fit the buildings, they tucked the buildings into the existing valleys and hills. This meant 60% of the palace was left as garden space, with only 40% for buildings. It's a perfect example of Korean philosophy. Don't conquer nature, be a part of it. We start our journey here at Donhwamun, the main gate. Unlike Gwallamji, which has 3 stone arched doorways, this gate is a wooden structure. It is the oldest existing palace gate in Seoul, surviving since 1609. The name means the whole country comes to a harmony and peace. Quite an ironic name from a bloody king, right? I'll give you a photo tip here. Stand at the gate and you can see the gate pillars looking like a photo frame, and inside the frame, you have the trees and mountain just like a painting. Stand in front of it and you will look like a part of that painting. Just a quick note, this gate is under maintenance until summer of 2027, so you'll have to use the small gate just a few steps around the corner. After we enter, look at these trees lining the entrance. These are Sephora trees, or scholar trees. In the Joseon Dynasty, the three highest officials were called the Samjeongseul. These trees symbolize them. It was a reminder to all the officials entering the palace, serve the country with integrity, as strong and deeply rooted as these trees. Crossing into the palace, we meet a bridge and a stream. This bridge is Geumcheongyo. Every royal palace has a bridge like this. It symbolizes a psychological border. The moment you cross this water, you are washing away your secular, worldly thoughts and entering the sacred space of the king. It's one of the oldest stone bridges in Seoul that is still in its original location. This brings us to the heart of the palace, Injeongjeon, the main throne hall. This is where major ceremonies happen, coronations, royal weddings, and receiving foreign envoys. And the stone markers on the ground are where officials stood based on their rank. But if you look closely inside, does something look strange? There are modern-style curtains and electric chandeliers. This hall shows us the twilight years of the Joseon Dynasty. In 1908, barely 2 years before Korea officially lost its sovereignty to the Japanese Empire, the interior was renovated with Western-style modern decor. It's a haunting mix of traditional majesty and the rapid, forced modernization that signaled the end of a 500-year-old dynasty. Just to the side, we see Seonjeongjeon, the king's official office. Take a look at the blue tiles on the roof. This is the only surviving building in the palaces of Seoul that has these distinct blue glazed tiles. Blue tiles were very expensive to make. Importing the pigment alone cost a fortune, showing the authority of the royal palace. In fact, modern presidential residence follows this tradition. It is called the Blue House, Changwade. That tradition of associating blue tiles with supreme power starts right here. Moving deeper, we arrive at Huijeongdang. This started as the king's bedchamber, but later became his office. Look at the entrance. It doesn't look like a traditional porch, does it? It almost seems like a hotel canopy. This was actually a car lobby. As Korea moved into the 20th century, the kings started using automobiles. They modified this ancient building so the royal limousine could drive right up to the door. You can actually see the royal limousine displayed at the National Palace Museum of Korea near Gwallamji Gate. It has other cool treasures and artifacts there, so it's a good idea to check that out after this tour. And nearby, there was a building called Eochago, the king's garage. Today, it's been converted into a tourist resting place. I dropped by to see how it's done inside and found some nice souvenirs and hot canned coffee. It feels odd to realize people are sipping coffee in the exact spot where the royal limousine was parked. This is Daejojeon, the queen's official residence. The name Daejo implies great creation, referring to the hope that the queen would give birth to a wise crown prince here. But history is full of irony. Despite the name Great Creation, not a single king was ever born in this building. It stands as a silent witness to the difficulties of royal succession. Attached to the queen's residence is a spot called Heungbokheon. The name means Porch of Rising Blessings. But this is perhaps the most tragic spot in the entire palace. It was right here on August 22, 1910, that the final cabinet meeting of the Joseon Dynasty was held. Pro-Japanese ministers, including the infamous traitor Lee, pressured the emperor to sign the Japan-Korea Annexation Treaty. In a place named for rising blessings, the 500-year-old dynasty officially came to an end, and the dark period of colonization began. The contrast between the hopeful name and the devastating reality is deeply ironic. Our final stop in the living quarters is Naksanje. This complex was built and used as the living quarters of the royal family. This complex is missing the colorful building paint decoration called dancheong, which symbolizes the dignity and the royal authority. King Hanjong from the late Joseon Dynasty was a humble man. He wanted to lift the royal authority at his family's quarter. That's why this building is missing dancheong. Speaking of the history, this place isn't just an ancient site. It was someone's real home until very recently, 1989. The royal princess Deokhae, daughter of Emperor Gojong, and Ibangja, daughter-in-law of Gojong, lived here. It reminds us that this history is not as distant as we think. So far, every building we've seen in Changdeokgung Palace has to do with politics, duty, and the tragedy at the end of Joseon Dynasty. Now we leave the stress of politics behind and enter a space of nature and harmony. This is Huwon, the Secret Garden. It takes up 60% of the entire palace. This is technically a forest and the buildings are built to be a part of the forest. And this garden was so private that even high-ranking officials couldn't enter without being summoned. This is the most famous spot and the center of the garden, Buyongji Pond. Look at the shape. The pond is square, representing the earth, and the island is round, representing the sky. It's the entire Eastern philosophical universe in miniature. Up on that hill is Juhamlu, the royal library. This was the brain of the dynasty. King Jeongjeon gathered the smartest young scholars here to study and reform the country. The gate leading up to it is called Fish Water Gate, Osumun. It symbolizes that the king is the water and the officials are the fish. Just like the fish and water together make natural harmony, the king wanted harmony with his officials to wisely rule the country. Next to the pond, we have this pavilion called Buyongjeon. It's designed to look like a lotus flower in full bloom. This is where the king held rap battles with the officials. The king would start the first part of a poem, and the next appointed official had to continue it. If someone failed to produce a quality poem, they were temporarily exiled in the name of king to that small island in the middle of the pond. Let's move deeper into the garden. To get to the next area, we have to pass through a very special gate called Bullomun. It's cut from a single piece of stone, and the name means Gate of Eternal Youth. Legend says if you walk through it, you'll never grow old. Sadly, they found a crack on it. So for tourist safety and to protect it from further damage, this gate is currently closed. Once you pass the gate, you'll see Aeryeonji Pond. Compared to the complex universe design we just saw at the first pond, this one feels simple and quiet, right? King Seokjong named this Aeryeon in 1692, which translates to love of lotus. There's no lotus now because it's January, but this pond is full of them in summer. He famously said, "I love the lotus because it blooms clearly and purely, even when its roots are in muddy water." It was a reminder for himself, even if the world of politics gets sturdy and muddy, a true leader must remain pure and upright. Further inside, we reach the Gwallamji area. This is my favorite spot for architecture because the pavilions here are totally unique. Look at the pavilion on the edge of the water, Gwallamjang. Do you see the shape? It's shaped exactly like an open traditional fan. It's the only fan-shaped pavilion in all of Korea. It was designed so the king could sit at the handle of the fan and watch the ripples on the water. The second pavilion just a few steps away is called Changdeokgung. See how this pavilion has two roofs? This is not the only unique part. On the ceiling from inside, you'll see a complex geometrical structure and two blue dragons. You should take a photo of this one. It's probably one of the best wallpapers you will take away from today's tour. Now we arrive at a building called Yeongyeongdang that looks similar to Nakseonje we saw earlier from the palace area. There's no dancheong here too, meaning this place was where the royal family stayed while in Secret Garden. Please look at this building. It has a green flat roof and a traditional sunshade that looks exotic from the rest of the place. The roof was the latest house decoration trend from Chang Dynasty and was imported to Joseon. And this building used to be the royal private library, so to protect the books, there are sunshades. This exotic looking building makes Yeongyeongdang look so unique. Before we finish, I have to introduce you to the oldest living witness of this palace. This is the juniper tree. It is roughly 750 years old. That means this tree was here before the palace was even built. It has survived wars, fires, and invasions that destroyed the buildings around it. This tree wasn't just for decoration. The wood from juniper trees has a very strong scent, so it was used as incense for royal ancestral rituals. In a way, this tree served the spirits of the kings. It's twisted and turned by the wind over 7 centuries, standing here as a true guardian of Changdeokgung Palace. Today, we looked at Changdeokgung Palace and the Secret Garden, the place where Joseon Dynasty's tragic end and the beautiful garden away from politics exist together. Thank you for walking through history with me today. I'll see you in the next video.